Roll call. Start off with a pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we're going to roll call Ray Rogozinski, City of Bristol.
Yeah, Patricia, do you want to go down the list?
Sure. Is this, okay, Sheila O'Malley, Jamie Gracie, Beacon Falls, Rob Brzezinski, Beacon Falls, Andrew Lyle, Bethlehem, Stephen Swarty, Bethlehem, Ray Rogozinski, Bristol, Merrick Kemet, Cheshire. That's all mine. Dan Bombero, Cheshire, Megan Sloan, CT Metro, Mike Pictionary, Derby, Jane Dunbar, DOT.
Morning, Jane.
Jane's here. Kevin Tedesco, DOT, Dan Norton, Middlebury, James Stewart, Naugatuck, Dawn Passerine, Oxford, Helen Lang, Oxford, Wayne Watt, Oxford, Paul Pronovost, Plymouth, Bob Chatfield, Prospect, Brian Asteriak, Seymour.
Here.
Nope, Brian's here. Remus Balsas, Shelton, Blake Leonard, Southbury, Glenn Clark, Thomaston, Dave Simpson, Waterbury, Roy Kavanaugh, Waterbury, Jerry Lukowski, Watertown,
Here.
Paul Bonovich, Watertown,
Online.
Rich Lamoth, Woodbury, William Agresta, Woodbury, Doran Dagan, Mark Pasadento. That's all I have on my list. Am I missing people's names?
So we have Karen Cook from the town of Oxford. Kevin Ellis, NVCOG, Christine O'Neill, NVCOG, who's also present in the room. Christian, NVCOG. And Matthew Tanowski.
Matthew.
I'm from Southbury.
Okay, thank you, Matthew.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Okay,
Alright.
thank you.
Okay. A public comment. Anybody here from the public wishing to speak?
We did not receive any requests for public comment either.
Approval of meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes on November 1st?
I'll motion it.
Motion
Second.
is- Any discussion?
Brian, Mr. Hill.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. So guest presentation. Melissa Evans.
Good morning.
I'm Melissa. I'm part of the TTAC T2 Advisory Committee, and I know the good work she does, so. Also, is Jason Hughes here?
Jason is with me, yeah. Good morning, thank you for having us. We're here just to talk a little bit about the Safety Circuit Rider program at the T2 Center. Give you a little bit of information on what we do, what we can provide to you as a local agency. Assistance that we offer and some services that we offer that I'm hoping will be review for many of you, but if there's anybody new to municipal government or public works, it will be new information. So we're just trying to reach out to everybody. There are a lot of new faces since the fall, since the election. We've had a lot of new people move around, so we'll get started. Perfect, thank you. So just a quick introduction. I am the Safety Circuit Rider. I worked for the Town of Greenwich Department of Public Works for about 21 years as the traffic operations coordinator there before I took this position in 2019. The rest of the team, Jason, who will introduce himself, and then Lisa Knight, who's our educational program coordinator, who does all of our classes for us within the Safety Academy. So Jason, you can.
I'm the safety technical associate, work with Melissa and the rest of the folks on our team. I come with 23 years in law enforcement experience. I work for the town of Farmington, prior to that I was in New York. Specialized in crash reconstruction for that. So that's what I bring here to everybody.
And Jason's been with us since last summer, so he's, we're starting to set him free, so. Next slide, please. So, prior to Jason coming to save me from all of the work that there was for the Safety Circuit Rider program, I was it for the whole state. So, I still live in Greenwich, so I would travel from there to just about everywhere else. And so with Jason on board now, we have actually divided the state. So this is just the map that shows the distribution of municipalities between the two of us. I'm in yellow, Jason's based in Farmington, he's in blue. The reason why we're both here today is because we tried very hard to split the state along that middle line and keep all of the municipalities within a region together. This one was hard because of the way I had to draw the line. So Jason does have one municipality in the region, but you know, we just felt it was important that both of us, you know, our faces and names be known to everyone. So next slide, please.
I actually think we're pretty well split.
Yes.
Oh, I thought this was the one he only had one, but okay,
No, I think we're just about half and half.
okay.
As all of our members are aware, our boundaries make it very difficult for us to be split up, so we're all kinds of, you know.
It's so
other,
funny because, and then like, there's, I think, one other region where we share, you know, as you draw the line, you're kind of, I was trying and I was like, okay, but then one of us is gonna have like far too many compared to the other. It's like, can we just cut that down in half? We probably could have, but, Jason, you can take this one.
Sure. So we do a bunch of things and I don't know if anybody's aware yet or have used our services, but we provide tons of technical assistance, whether it be through road safety assessments. We were talking about this earlier. We do crash data illustrations. We use the crash repository to get that stuff out. We host and train people with obvious training through our programs, and we do roundtable discussions on hot topics that come up all over the state and throughout the country. Obviously, our technical research, we talked about that a little bit, but we really work hard on that. Also, obviously, the coffee and conversations that we've done recently, we've had quite a few on the automated traffic enforcement. You know, that's a very hot topic in the state. So that's where we focus a lot of our stuff. Oh, so again, the equipment loan program, we're really proud of that. There's a lot of stuff that we get out to people. Recently, it's a lot of speed safety sign or speed feedback signs and traffic counters, you know, which also provide speed as well. But that list up there, and I brought some here in case anybody wants any of our equipment loan program. It seems to be working out pretty well. People are constantly asking us, and I'm sure they do through the COGs as well, for, you know, traffic counters, you know, so they can do their accounts and apply for grants and figure out where their problems are. So we're very happy to help to do that. Not only do we provide the equipment, but a lot of it, we provide the data that goes along with it. So if you're looking for, you know, specific ADT or accounts or speeds on roadways, we're always doing that. So, yeah.
And I will point out just a couple of things for the equipment loan. I mean, one, it does say it on the slide, but in case you didn't read it, it's free, as are all of our services in the Safety Circuit Rider program. So the technical assistance, our training classes, everything we provide through that program, because it's a grant funded program, so it is free to folks who need to use it. And we did purchase last year, we purchased a pavement marking retroreflectometer. We've had a sign retroreflectometer for several years because of the requirements for sign retroreflectivity. When the pavement marking retroreflectivity requirements came out in the federal manual, that NVCOG, we figured that there wouldn't be a lot of municipalities in Connecticut that could afford a $16,000 unit to take those measurements, especially since some of them might only have one road that had to meet the minimum requirements. So we purchased a unit that we loan out to folks so that they can take those measurements and make sure that they're meeting the minimum requirements for that. And Jason won't tell you this, but one of the projects that he took on when he came to us was creating the lovely new equipment loan brochure. So it's much nicer than it used to be. It has a QR code on it. So we'll leave a couple here, for anybody who might want one. Obviously, our goal is to promote safety on local roads in all the local agencies in the state. We do that several different ways, but some of the ways that we try to get information out to folks, we do have a listserv that Public Works listserv, a local traffic authority listserv, but we put information out when we feel it's important. We also do tech briefs that we're actually going to be rebranding as road safety briefs. And we do those on topics that we feel are relevant, that people need info on. As Jason mentioned, we do our coffee and conversations. And then we also have a monthly article in our newsletter, the Connecticut Crossroads, which is a T2 newsletter. We have a Safety Matters article where we talk about, anything that might be current, relevant, new information. We share new guides that have come out from Federal Highway, different information from them, all within that newsletter. So I encourage folks, if you're not on one of our listservs, if you don't get our newsletter, to sign up, because there is really good information in there, right? See, he's shaking his head. You can't see him, he is. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so our training topics. We run all of our training through our Safety Academy. Again, as I mentioned, it is free, our classes within the Safety Academy. And if you complete 40 hours of Safety Academy classes, you become a Connecticut Safety Champion. We are debuting our new graphic for the Safety Champion program. When I started, we had a graphic that I never liked and just didn't have time to do anything about. But we now have this lovely new graphic that we all think is, thank you. We worked on it together and we think it's a lot nicer than, if you want to know, it used to be like this Superman guy with an S on his chest and a cape. And I was like,
Yeah.
I hated it for 4 years. So now I don't have to see him anymore. But some of the topics that we cover, ADA self-assessments and transition plans is a hot topic. I started teaching that, and we're having another class in the spring. Last year we scheduled a spring class and had to schedule a fall class because it filled up and we had a waiting list. We bring Federal Highway instructors in, safe transportation for every pedestrian we're doing again this year. Low-cost safety improvements we did last year with a Federal Highway instructor. Jason and I teach sign installation and maintenance, road safety assessments we do a class on. We are having a class, we're having at least 2, I think, this year of RSA classes. So, lots of different topics that we try to cover. Many folks took speed management because we were offering it as part of the speed sign program, and we gave those out to everybody. So just, we try to cover a lot of the different things that might be relevant to folks in the safety world. You can take this one. You have to click through, to get the, thank you. Nope. I know, I should have taken that off the slide, but there's like a.
Even if you can't see it on there, we have, we're redesigning our website, and we're gonna have examples of traffic, fixes that people have done throughout the state, whether it be, putting in new temporary, installations or, doing full, safety county measures, that, Federal Highway has. So we have pictures from like before and after from certain towns where they've come out, we've done our RSAs. And, or just came out and give some advice, and they've gone out and changed things and what they're gonna look like. So that other agencies who are contemplating or considering doing other things, like that, throughout the state can go on and look and say, hey, this is a town that did it. This is what it looks like for them, or they'll have, somebody they can reach out to and say, hey, how did you get that done? So, we're reworking through our website to make it a lot easier. We're actually incorporating a lot more, categories in that as well, which I know Melissa knows all of them because she put a lot of it together. So
So the existing safety examples, do you have a question?
From our perspective, I have one water, very sorry, I didn't
That's
introduce
okay.
myself. From our perspective, one of the hot topics, and we get a lot of discussion requests and pushback. If we get some guidance or a fact sheet or some help on the topic of speed humps or speed bumps,
Yes.
that is,
Absolutely. So that came up in our local traffic authority 101 training as well. I don't know, not everybody in this meeting would have necessarily had to take that yet, but, so one of the things that I can tell you is that, as Jason said, we have this safety examples repository and we are adding to it all the time. We do have a couple of speed hump examples in here, from some municipalities that have done them. But one of the things that we're going to be adding, and I can actually just get some information back to you, this afternoon when I get home. But we are going to be adding to our website, though, like a hot topics section on the safety circuit rider page. And the first hot topic that I actually put on there is just that, it's speed humps. And when they're appropriate, where they're appropriate, the difference between humps and bumps, because I have found that, residents will often say like, oh, we need speed bumps. And I'm like, and then I get people calling me, say like, oh, well, we need, we're contemplating speed bumps. And I'm like, well, I certainly hope you're not, because a speed bump on a public road is not what you want to install, right? That's what goes in like private parking lots. But a speed hump has its place. I always tell people, none of these devices solve every problem, right? So you have to figure out what the actual issue is first. Having worked for municipality, I would get the same request, right? It was like, everyone speeds on our street, we need speed humps. And I'm like, well, first of all, we need data, because what you perceive as speeding might not actually be speeding, right? So you have to do the initial analysis first. And then speed humps don't always solve that problem, because they come with their own set of issues. So there's a lot of information out there. I'm happy to get information back. I don't know if the best way to do that is just send it to you and you can put it out to the group. Probably that's the best way. So when I get home today, I will, I'll send some information out, and then anything that you want follow up on or more information on, you can feel free to contact me. Okay,
thank you.
of course. Yeah, no problem.
And I guess at a minimum, if we can just get a copy of the full presentation to everybody.
Absolutely. It's there now, so you can, we're happy to share the presentation. I will say that for the safety examples, I say this to everyone I present the program to. I say it in all of our classes. The point of the safety examples repository is it's divided up by countermeasures by type. So we have pedestrian and bicycle improvements, roadway improvements, planning and policies, and then we're adding resident education and temporary trial installations. And then it's divided up by local agency. So, a particular local agency might have several examples in those different categories. It's great. The reason why we did that is because we want you to be able to go on and say, okay, well, I know I want to make pedestrian improvements, right? But you might not know what, so you just click on the pedestrian one. But you might also be getting requests for a specific thing and think to yourself, okay, well, I'm looking at this list of municipalities and I'm nothing like the city of Stamford, but I'm a lot more like the town of, I don't know, West Hartford, right? And so you can click on the agency and see the different things that they've done, which are going to cover more than just one particular topic necessarily, right? So it gives you an opportunity to say, not everybody is going to do the things that a Stamford or a Norwalk or a New Britain does, or a New Haven, right? But there are a lot of smaller municipalities that do a lot of good work too. The other thing I will say, and I always say this, and people very rarely take me up on it, which makes me sad, but if you are doing something, you're doing a project and it gets completed and you're like, oh, that's a really nice project. We did a really nice job with that. I know it's very hard. We have a hard time patting ourselves on the back and saying that we've done good work. And we are quick to move on to the next thing because everyone's got so much on their plate. But I really encourage you to share with us those examples, because the more we can build that repository, the better the state will be, right? We're trying to make roads safer. We're trying to keep everybody alive. the more we can share good work, and it doesn't have to be anything outrageous. You don't have to think to yourself, well, I'm never gonna build a roundabout, so why would I share this little project with Melissa and Jason? We have low-cost improvements on there, striping, signage. You improve signage on a horizontal curve, we wanna know about it. We wanna put the picture up of the work that you did. So I'll stop short of saying I'm begging, but I am asking wholeheartedly for folks to share those examples with us when they do good work. And yeah, I mean, just, you know, some photos here, you can see some pictures of some of our trainings. We were here, last year with our ADA toolkit. The ADA self-assessment and transition plans class uses that same toolkit. A couple of, photos on the bottom of some training in an RSA. We are here to help. We literally, our entire job is to provide assistance to local agencies. That's what Jason and I are here to do every day when we show up to work. So we really encourage you to, you know, use the program. And it can be anything from, you know, you want to bounce something off of us quick in an email. I get that all the time. You know, people shoot me an email and say, hey, we got a request. This is what I think is the right thing to do. I just want to check with you and see if I'm on the right track. Like, it could be that simple. You know, just as a sounding board, or, hey, we have this intersection and we're kind of out of ideas. We don't know what to do about it. Can we come out and help? And, you know, we can. That's what we're here for. So, thanks for listening to us and letting us introduce ourselves. I think the next slide hopefully is the one with our contact. Yeah. So our contact information, emails and our phone numbers, you know, and you'll get a copy of this and that'll be in there. But, you know, again, feel free to reach out to us. The distribution map, depending on what municipality you're from, is again on that one of those first slides. So you can take a peek at that. Whichever color you are, that's your primary contact. So if you're yellow, you want to reach out to me first. And if you're blue, you can reach out to Jason first. Depending on what it is that you're asking for, we might both show up, but one of us will be your primary contact. So again, thank you for having us, for letting us take a few minutes of your morning. And you know, hopefully we'll be hearing from some of you. Thanks.
So this is just an example, not to put you on the spot.
No,
but
go for it.
In Bristol, with the entity that I really answer to is the Board of Public Works, which is made up of the mayor, 3 councilmen, and some, you know, laymen.
Mhm.
I've always been, although quite frankly, there's never been a roundabout opposed, you know, I've always been like the anti-roundabout.
We're gonna change that, but.
Because of a, you know, really a driver anticipation. A big part of driver safety to me is driver anticipation. I do believe that as more roundabouts around the state, then that changes. So
Yeah.
I'm probably more open to roundabouts than I have ever been, you know, before. But
we're getting
in
there.
the abstract, if I wanted, you know, me, and when I say abstract, not a specific, you know, location, if I wanted you to come in and give like a presentation to my Board of Public Works of like the pros and cons of, you know, roundabouts for an evening meeting, is that something you would do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I've been to many evening meetings, late afternoon meetings, presenting to police commissions and boards, for many different things. So, you know, whether it's like something like that, I did a whole police commission presentation, on stop signs and stop sign warrants and when you should and shouldn't be putting in stop signs because they were having a hard time saying no to some folks, so. But a lot of times it is easier actually to have us come in and do that, right? Because you're getting that outside third-party objective, you know, I have no skin in the game in your municipality, right? I'm just giving you the information and you then can do with it whatever you decide to do with it, but yeah, absolutely, we can do that.
And what changed my mind on roundabouts is the one that they put in Salem.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah, it was about 10 years ago. And now Glastonbury has a few too, but I think they're a little bit tight, but I think.
Yeah,
they're
the
doing it
Hebron
this
Avenue
way.
ones in
Yeah.
Glastonbury they're, yeah,
Yeah.
but, you know, but there are some, I mean, there are some beautiful examples around the state now, and we do feature some of them on our page. But we're we're getting them there.
I think every consultant I talk to takes credit for the Hebron ones until I say I don't like them. Well, you know, we really only did that like a small part of it, you know, at least own it, you know?
Right.
If you're gonna brag about it.
Then they're
own it.
backing off, they're like, we were just the sub on that.
But the ones in Salem, and it was always traffic back up all the time, and now there's no
Now it's
traffic back.
beautiful.
That's- We just move right through.
Yeah,
We have, that recording that Scott Bushy did. I don't know if it's on our website, but it goes through everything about roundabouts. It's really,
Yes.
very thorough and talks about all the benefits and stuff. I don't know if it's still on their website.
It is,
Yeah.
it's under what we do, Transportation Planning Resource Library,
Yeah.
and I can
Nice,
send a link
yeah.
to that.
I mean, some would say it's been the Kool-Aid, you know, of traffic engineering for a number of years.
well, so I just had a conversation, so I just had a conversation yesterday, with someone from a municipality who, they have an intersection where they have a traffic signal, and the traffic signal they had a power surge, whatever happened, the signal blew. Signal needs to be repaired. It's very old, probably wasn't even warranted when it was first put in 1985, but it's been there ever since. And they're currently operating an always stop because the signal is out and they're trying to figure out what to do about it. And he was like, honestly, I just want to take it down and put like a mini roundabout. And I was like, honestly, that is exactly what you should do, because you're gonna spend $100,000 to fix this thing because it's from 1985. It's not been touched since. You're gonna have to bring it all up to current standards. And it's like this perfect intersection. Like you could almost look at it and just be like, you could just see it kind of dropped in the middle of this thing, right? But it's just changing, they're not gonna work everywhere, right? But they might work.
Yeah, so I don't wanna,
Somewhere.
take up everybody's
No,
time,
yep.
just talk about roundabouts.
But we will
I'll just say
definitely
one
come.
more thing, and then you can, since I'm chairman, you can't respond, you can just stew in it. It's like when traffic engineers try to convince you that reverse angle parking is safe, and I always say, if you got me in a room for an hour and explained it to me, you'd probably convince me. But until 70% of Bristol residents understand how to even use it and what the sign means, it's not safe.
We can give you a presentation on that too. I'll come explain it to them.
Yeah, if you spend an hour with every resident and explain it, maybe we'll be.
Put them in groups, that's what we do. That's why you do group presentations, so you can spend an hour with at least several at a time. Well, thank you all very much. We really do appreciate your time and listening to us, and hopefully you found something that you can use and you'll be reaching out to us. Really, that's what we're here for. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. We're gonna sneak out.
Thank you.
Yes, I do. Would you like, I can leave some.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
Just moving on, to the next item, item 3, transportation planning, introduction to new transportation planner.
Yeah, and so I apologize, Christian had to be remote this morning, so I believe he's on screen. But I just wanted to briefly introduce Christian, who has joined us as a new full-time transportation planner. Christian, if you'd like to say hello and just give a little background. I believe he's online. Well, Christian joins us from.
Sorry,
from
can you hear me, Rich?
There we go.
Hello, I apologize for my background. I'm in the process of moving to Connecticut still. I'm from Washington, DC, so very happy to join NVCOG as a transportation planner. I worked in transportation policy for the DC Council, which is essentially DC state legislature. So I'm really excited to be, coming at it from a different lens now with NVCOG, really trying to improve the built infrastructure in the Valley region to make sure, it's a safer and more well-connected community. So I'm really excited to be working with all of you and get to know you over the next few months. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you'll all have an opportunity, I'm sure, to work with Christian soon.
Awesome, thank you. Thomaston Elm Street, I'm sorry, NVCOG waste application.
Yes, so we are, as an agency, for one of the first times, creating a raise application. So we've been speaking about it for a while. We decided it was worth going after some design funds for the Naugatuck River Greenway to try and finish design in its entirety between East Main Street and Thomaston, and just about Greenfield and Naugatuck. We decided to get a little creative with it as well, use some of the existing rec trails funds that are out there and, you know, try and take advantage of the state dollars that have already been programmed into this to bring in some additional federal dollars. We just wanted to make you all aware of it. You know, we had endorsement from the CNVMPO board at our January meeting. We're getting ready. We will be submitting this hopefully next week if we can get some feedback from DOT and the Commissioner Boughton's office. But just, you know, it is an example of some of the things we can do. If anybody has interest in something like this in the next raise round, we're happy to talk about it. We'll see how the regional approach on this goes, but we're hopeful that we'll end up with just about 5 million in federal dollars to get that full 16-mile section of the Naugatuck River Greenway designed.
So in general, on raised grants, because Bristol has been in some initial talks.
Mhm.
And, you know, I say this so you can just provide them with additional information, or correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding that it is a fairly substantial, you know, application, and it is a competitive, you know, base, and I guess what makes a better raiser grant than others, and how difficult is it to prepare one?
Yeah, so RAISE is probably the most extensive of the federal aid programs as far as the application goes. It is, whether it's for design or construction, it is more or less a 30-page narrative, but only a 30-page narrative. And so you really have to make the points in a short amount of time, but you have to make it competitive. I want to say it's about a third of RAISE applications are funded. RAISE is a big program, thankfully, and it is funded for 5 years. We're in year three of the 5-year authorization for it. It's also a very popular program for both parties, which makes it likely to continue funding regardless of what happens in November. But it's very competitive. It covers bigger projects. The minimum award on RAISE is 3 million in rural areas and 5 million in urban areas, and a maximum of 25 million. And so, you know, it's not necessarily an easy one to go after for small projects. It should be something larger to be something more impactful. The other thing they're really looking for is it is as much an economic development program as it is a transportation program. And so they want to see clear evidence that the project is going to advance economic development within the project area or around the project area, that it addresses either historic inequities or underinvestments. So it's not just a transportation asset, but becomes a kind of an all-around asset for the community.
But that's also why, not to cut you off, that's also why, like, cities in general are much more competitive than rural towns.
Yeah, for sure. You know, if you're looking at it in a rural area, it really is probably better to take a more regional approach, be able to show how it impacts not only your community, but the communities around you. You know, I think other than maybe the couple of largest cities in our region, it's unlikely the communities would be particularly competitive on their own. You know, we have had some success. We, in the first round of RAISE, ConnDOT applied with some assistance from us for the Derby Station and was awarded 12.5 million. In the second round, the city of Waterbury applied and was awarded 25 million, pretty much the project maximum. No NVCOG community applied in the last round. I'm sorry, this is year 4 of the 5-year authorization. And so now we will be applying for this Naugatuck River Greenway project in year 4. We're hoping to, again, you know, have success this year and submit something next year. It's a great program, and a lot can get done with it, but it certainly is a time-consuming and intensive application.
Any questions? Comments?
There's an example of the Waterbury application, was comprised of 3 elements. The first element was the reconstruction of West Main Street from the green all past the highway, which kind of tied in economic development and everything else going in downtown. Part 2 was the installation of electrical vehicle charging stations at the train station, which again is, you know, presses the ecological, environmental buzzword, button. And then the third part was step two of the Greenway, bringing it in from, Eagle Street when phase one ended and bringing that into downtown, Freight Street. So, we kind of made a pitch, for those three elements, well, actually, we submitted a fourth element too, but that wasn't accepted. And that's how we got funded, is kind of packaging the disparate elements together. And our narrative was, the whole thing, intermodal, economic development, greenways, environmental justice. Well, that was like Rich said, it was designed for bigger projects. It's very competitive. It's really the successor of the Tiger grants. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so I encourage any communities that are thinking about it, who may have an interest in the fifth year, we expect it to open in November. The sooner we can start talking about it and working out details, the better.
And then, Lossip. Update?
Yeah, so just a brief financial plan update. Not much has changed since our last financial plan update. We're still looking at just about 135 million total in projects throughout the various phases. And if you go forward one more slide. Kevin talking about this?
Or no, Kevin's.
Moving the slide. I understand. Okay, thank you. So as we've been saying, we are approaching the point where we are over-programmed, which is fantastic news. We are hopeful to maintain and even grow the over-programming. We know that between project schedule changes, cost adjustments, and potentially the availability of additional funds, we, should still be able to move projects forward. We have started thinking about what it might look like when we do hit that maximum, how we ensure projects go out as soon as they're, how we prioritize which projects can go out and make sure projects are getting built as fast as possible. And so we'll bring some recommendations here to TTAC soon. But we still have some time on that. And so we're hopeful that us being as overprogrammed as we are and some of the other regions finally spending some of their money will allow CONDOT to approach the legislature with a reasonable ask to increase funding to the program, as it has obviously been very successful for us.
Has the Lotsip bottleneck been resolved, or is that still?
With CONDOT, with their review.
Kinda, yeah.
So now that the new program leads are truly in charge of the program, they seem very committed to moving applications and review faster on their end. I can't say for sure that, there won't be any delay in it and that they'll move as fast as we would like. But they certainly have reduced in the initial application phase the amount of comments that they're making that aren't an application phase comment. And they seem to be moving a bit faster on their reviews.
Good.
Yeah, they're listening a little bit,
They're not always more responsive, but
Right.
they have been more responsive than in the
There
past.
seems to be
and so-
some improvement.
Yeah,
So, yeah, that's for.
Yes.
exactly.
I think just from, I can't speak for all municipalities, but for Bristol, when we move projects, forward, certainly the timeline expands as the project expands, which is why, honestly, when we do a project that intersects a state road, we do understand that it's a major investment, we want to improve things, but, we don't like it, it scares us. I don't use the word scared, but it scares when someone says, well, why don't you do this on the state road, or why don't you do that on that state road? That takes a doable project, in my mind, that we can do, in a year, and planning wise.
Yep.
Just, years on it.
I agree, Ray. We've had the same thing happen, right? We don't control the schedule. Once it expands, the schedule stretches out. So it makes it more difficult.
So those comments, like, wouldn't it be nice to do, I think those are appropriate comments, but honestly, when they start really expanding the timeline and, rights away brutal, it becomes very problematic. It takes a doable local project it makes it, a 3-year project to get on, get out the bid.
You're right, they're telling me if rights of way is involved, it tack on a year automatically.
Yeah, and the encroachment permit process we know is still very difficult.
Yeah.
We're still working with the districts to try and make that better, but that has been slower than improvement in doing too.
I mean, rights of way are particularly problematic, in Bristol, because, honestly, the right of way process for the DOT is better than our right of way process, locally, because our municipality would never, condemn an easement, So financial plan overview.
I was just gonna mention, there's always the option in lots of, to ask the DOT, and you know this, to take over the right of way. Or not take over, but handle that portion. If you think it's gonna be a particularly difficult, project regarding right of way, and the town or city wants to be a little more hands off, that's one way to kind of get around that, I guess.
Yeah, the benefit of having the state do it, from my perspective, it drags it out. But they, as you indicated, they're willing to do the condemnation for the easement or the taking or whatever. The city and most towns are very reluctant to actually condemn. So that's kind of the trade-off.
And plus you have to stop talking to any of the property owners and let the DOT handle it all. So,
Which is a beautiful thing sometimes.
No, I do think that my comment is even part of an education process, that I've been through, that realize that even though lots of projects are a quicker process, than a state project, that still doesn't make it quick,
They're not
Through
quick.
you, Mr. Chairman, sorry. Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think it's the third party review, which I find I can understand the COG reviewing the project and DOT putting eyes on it, of course. But when you have a third party reviewing an engineering firm's plan that's equal to, the engineers that are reviewing it, I think that's a little repetitive, and it makes the process drag out more. So, I don't know, that's my 2 cents on lots of.
Well, there is this requirement in the lots of guidelines that a technical review be done.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, we do our reviews, but really, I found that the third-party reviews have been very helpful in the past. It's another layer of time and effort that goes into it, but they do seem to improve the projects for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I don't take issue with any of the comments they've made or improvements they're suggesting, but I mean, when you have a qualified firm doing your design work, then it would stand to reason that they know the same things as the engineering party that's reviewing your project, right?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Okay, sorry.
I don't know that we could get around it though, or what,
Nope.
you know.
No, you can't. It's just,
Right.
it's time consuming.
Yep.
No, I would say that there has been issues just, in my time, sitting on this, board, certainly projects, from original application stage, to, as they work their way through design, the costs have gone up substantially. But it doesn't seem as though, it seems like by the time the projects go out, to bid, there's not necessarily a disproportional amount of change orders, which is a good thing.
Yeah, that's one of the things we strive for sure.
So that's an overview. I guess we're on number 2, which would be Thomaston Elm Street.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. So yes, this is a new WhatsApp project that has been in the application phase for several months now. The original pitch for this project was a roadway reconstruction along Elm Street and Thomaston as shown on the map, but after we here at NVCOG took some review of the project, we decided to incorporate the Naugatuck River Greenway into this section. So the new proposed design will be a road diet with a roadway reconstruction with an additional bike path on the eastern side, as well as improving and maintaining the sidewalks on both sides, including, and then the project will also have drainage improvements and other roadway improvements. So the estimated cost is around $4.4 million, and the motion is to recommend allocation of lots of funds to the project. And I'll take any questions.
So you were skipping out a little bit. So you have there's a recommended motion to move this to.
A recommended motion for TTAC to endorse the project.
Yeah, for the full board to accept it.
Do I have a motion just for this?
I'll make a motion, Sheila.
Second.
Motion and seconded discussion? Any other comments on the project? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next one, Waterbury signal replacement.
Yep, this is me. Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So NVCOG ran a corridor study project for West Main Street in Waterbury a while back. And as Roy mentioned, some of the RAISE grant that you received will go toward the improvements that were recommended with the corridor study. However, your RAISE grant is going to a few different places, so the city came to us for lots of money to replace 2 traffic signals on West Main Street that are within that corridor and that will tie into the RAISE project. The estimated cost is 1.56 million. And we're not asking for a motion only because of the timing with this. It was sort of important to get this project going so that it could be coordinated with the design of the RAISE project, because these signals have to be changed out because of the improvements of the geometry being done with the RAISE project. So we did go directly to the board in December, and they approved the project, but we did tell them that, you know, we're going to follow up with TTAC and let them know about the project. Certainly, if there's any concerns, we can bring that back to the board. And I'll take any question.
Mr. Chairman, if I could amplify a little bit. The urgency for this particular issue is it's being administered by the FHWA, and they were leaning on us pretty hard to plug the gap in this. Basically what the project is, if you remember a couple of years ago, what they call the CMAQ project, Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Project, there was a LOTSIP component of that that was approved through this commission and the board for signal improvements on basically from the gap in funding. Subsequent to that, the DOT said they were gonna fund CMAQ 100%. So the LOTSIP component of financial planning kind of went dormant. It wasn't required at that time. So this is really, and coincidentally, these 2 signals that we're talking about were taken out of CMAQ at that time as part of the renegotiation. So basically what this particular LOTSIP project is a continuation of the original LOTSIP grant, just a couple different signals, and we're calling it a different project for just to make things clean. If that makes sense to you.
So, I mean, we're doing a CMAQ application, project in Bristol that we receive funding for, and every time I talk to DOT, they mentioned 5 times that this is it, Bristol will never get another dime. I write out something in blood saying that if the project goes over, you're financially responsible for it. City of Bristol will never write such a thing, I worded it back to them probably 5 different times, but I support this because not to be, I'm the youngest of 8, and I always liked it when my older siblings got away with something, so maybe that's not the right word, but special treatment, it just makes it easier for me in the future, so.
There you go. They came back with us and said they had quote unquote leftover funds. So
Yeah.
they're-
I literally put in an email, can we get the same treatment as Waterbury, and they wrote back, that was a special arrangement.
Gotta love it.
So I support the motion, no, but there is no, I
Well,
support. the
there isn't a
project,
motion,
yeah.
but as I said, if there was something you wanted us to take back to the board, we can certainly do.
No, we have been
You
working
can filter
with
those
the,
comments accordingly, you exercise your own judgment.
You know, we don't like to skirt around, TTAC with these projects, but it was, you know, the timing really was important.
Extenuating circumstances.
Right.
Um,
And I think there
Yeah.
was, because of the change in the calendar or something, didn't we go like 3 months without a
We did.
TTAC or something? like
normally TTAC would have been the first week of January, but because it always overlapped with holidays on that schedule, we pushed
Yeah.
it back a month.
So that's.
So we had a longer than average gap between meetings. And just to CMAC, we have been talking with intergovernmental affairs about some issues with CMAC and the fact that projects almost always end up going over. And it's burdensome for communities to then have to figure out how to cover that. And so Kevin and his staff have been working on some potential changes to the way that CMAC applications are handled and that funding is distributed.
Yeah, again, it's a matter of equity, because the DOT was treating CMAC differently than they were having municipalities treat it. DOT did what they wanted, if they went over, it wasn't a problem. If a municipality like Bristol did it, that go away, that you own it, so. We're trying to level the playing field, if you will.
I mean, in all honesty, I mean, when the state asks for like a statement from a municipality that says, you know, please write something, you know, confirming, you know, that the city of, you know, municipality is gonna be on the hook if it goes over, like completely open-ended, that's just not the way we, we operate. We literally would walk away from $3 million grant if they asked us for that out of principle. We can't write it, for us, it's like writing, you know, giving them a blank check, yeah? Any questions or other comments on, Waterbury single replacement?
Well, I apologize, I had a different dollar value, but we just got the application and that number might be from the pre-application, so it went up a little bit.
In which case, project closeout?
Oh, that's just a reminder, for everyone to keep thinking about and working on any completed lots of projects. I think we did send around the information a couple of times on how to close out your project, so, we are gonna crack down on that. I think Bob has just been so busy.
Yeah, we do
But
have,
it
there's
is,
about 5 million in
yeah.
funds remaining in towns for projects that have been completed. And obviously, as we approach the limit of our available lots of funding, getting that back into the program is helpful. 5 million is a full project, so if you have a project that is complete, work with us and we'll get everything put together, get a check back to the department and come right back into the program.
And then just complete streets, regional policy?
Yeah, so Mark is unable to be with us this morning. He is cat sitting.
In Vermont or something.
Yeah, he's at his son's house in somewhere else in
Well,
New England.
Massachusetts.
But, anyway, part of IJA is that MPOs either need to have a specific set aside of their federal planning dollars for complete streets work, or to be able to opt out of that, must have a complete streets policy as well as a complete streets prioritization plan. And so we, as a region, do not have either of those items at the moment. The NVCOG board did endorse the CTDOT complete streets policy in September of 2022 as applying to our region, but we of course would like to take it a step beyond that. And so we expect at the April TTAC meeting to be presenting a final draft of a complete streets policy for the region that we'll ask you all to review and endorse before it goes on to the full NVCOG board. in addition to stating the importance of and having some background material on complete streets, we do hope that it, will have at least some influence over what regional projects look like, projects that are done using regional money. Of course, we're not gonna force you to change all of your lots of projects, but if we would like everybody to at least consider that complete streets element in projects as they're moving forward. This does fit in with the recently released CTDOT engineering directive that complete streets must be considered in all state projects. And that only the chief engineer can release a project from needing to take those items into consideration.
Is there a draft out now?
There's not yet, no.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll make sure everybody gets it as soon as we have
And then
it.
once we get it, could we get any help with doing our own local
Absolutely.
town?
Yeah. So there, along those lines, we encourage every town to maintain a complete streets policy. It is becoming increasingly relevant on federal and state funding applications. There is a proposal in front of the legislature this year, or there will likely be a proposal in front of the legislature this year to allow municipalities to formally endorse regional documents and policies in place of having one themselves. But our staff will be available to help assist communities that would like to adopt a policy on their own.
On a related note, we're also seeing a lot of language in projects and application now about ADA transition plans. If the municipalities, it's one of the boxes you have to check now, if you don't have one. Do you have a sense at this point, just a sense how the regional plan is gonna differ or complement the state plan in place?
Yeah, I imagine we will mostly mirror the state's policy. So the new state's policy is pretty comprehensive. We actually, if anything, may be a little less prescriptive in what we include in our regional plan. In our regional policy, at least. But we do then intend to take that policy and turn it into a prioritization plan for the region to comply with that new federal requirement. I think, again, the state's complete streets policy is pretty comprehensive at this point, and so I imagine it will be very, if anything, very complementary to what's out there already. And just a note, since you mentioned ADA transition plans, that is something that after last year's data collection from the department, they see a clear need for, and so they will be putting together a plan whereby the state hires a consultant to develop municipal ADA transition plans as needed. And so we as a region will be the test for that process. And so we encourage, nobody is required to, but we encourage all 19 communities to take advantage of that when that process starts. And we'll have more information about that hopefully very soon. The last we heard, CONDOT was still negotiating with Federal Highway about whether or not municipal buildings could be included with Federal Highway dollar projects.
Just within the region, how many communities have or have not the ADA transition plan?
So what was reported back to the state, 3 communities said they had a transition plan. We do not know whether any of those are truly compliant or not. 2 said that they didn't believe that they were required, that they were under 50 employees, municipal employees. However, based on the interpretation from CONDOT, no communities in our region are exempt.
What were the 3 communities?
Now you're gonna really put me on the spot. I believe you submitted something, Cheshire had submitted something, and I forget which the third was.
Yeah, I mean, just because a consultant did it doesn't mean it's right, but, we hired a consultant, we had Beta do ours. So hopefully, I
Did
believe it's
you
compliant.
like their product?
Well, I like their product, but they're and they did a target area for inspections, like in our downtown. And they looked at, handicap ramps, and they came back and they said 98% of the handicap ramps they looked at were, non-compliant for one reason or another. We only started putting even the, ADA, imprints in, maybe by now, maybe, 8 years, ago. So the area they hit didn't have a lot of them. And certainly there's a lot of, hills, in Bristol. And then they were like, for 40 grand, well, we'll expand it to another section of the town. I said, well, since you just said 98% of my handicap ramps, why don't I just, like, why do I have to inspect them to realize that 98% of them are compliant? I'll just spend, the 45 grand, to replace them, some of them, so that's what we're doing. And in all fairness, we made it part of our, connectivity grant. So, Bristol had 2 grants that they, were on our third side, connectivity grant. And they, like real money, we had like 800,000.
Just, to that point,
And
the
real
department
quick,
does intend to inspect every sidewalk and every ramp in your towns.
Yeah.
As part of this process.
Well, they should start with their own.
Well,
Yeah. They, and a big part of the plan is a financial plan on how much, we will invest. So in other words, we're compliant with the plan if we, invest a certain amount for, ADA, compliant and so that we will do, yeah.
Well, to Ray's point, it really bugs me. There's an FHWA requirement, I believe, that if you're redoing a road and paving the road, you have to make the adjacent sidewalks compliant. And they just blow right through that requirement.
Well, I mean, they do address it whenever we do a local road that intersects with them. They make it contingent upon their encroachment permit.
Yeah, if they do their road.
Yeah, correct.
I thought the VIP program required that they improve the ramps.
Maybe on paper it does. I mean, if you talk to them, they'll say it's on our schedule, but I can tell you as a practical matter, they don't get replaced.
They don't get replaced.
it is an ongoing issue that, so the department has recently increased the staffing of their ADA. I don't even know if they are engineering unit, whatever they call themselves. And so hopefully that is something that gets addressed. Jane, I don't know if you want to make a comment on this or if you want to just bring these comments back with you.
I know that it's in the works, but I can bring stuff back to
Great.
them and get more info. I know that they are getting done with you guys first, but that's all I have right now.
Yeah, certainly valid feedback though. I mean, we see it right out here, right? Grand Street was a VIP project last year. They didn't touch sidewalks at all.
No, no, fairness.
Right by
State would have the same problem we have, which is it just takes a lot more coordination. It really would dramatically decrease the amount of, road work they end up, doing.
Right.
So again, to Ray's point, what I did before, what I'm doing now is, a year or two before we're proposing to do a road, I've got a sidewalk project for that very reason, try to get ahead of it, because it just holds things up.
And I get, communities, I don't know about in Connecticut, but communities have gotten sued and lost, because of non-compliance with a, ADA ramp, sure. Okay. Next item, the info interactive.
We actually have one sub item on here, the Complete Streets Guidebook.
Yes, thank you. Going hand in hand with everything we were just talking about with the Complete Streets plan. This is a Complete Streets Guidebook that we are working on. We're hoping to have it to you by April. This is really a list of ideas, much like what UConn was talking about this morning. A basic list of ideas of how you can of what you can implement onto streets in order to make new complete streets and speed humps, speed bumps, road diets, intersection configurations, and everything. But this is also including elements from non-hard transportation side. So talk about like street art, bioswales, and even things like in land use and zoning. So again, we hope to have a draft to you in April, but this is something that's incoming. And if you have any thoughts on this already and you want to give us some feedback and anything you think might warrant its inclusion in the guidebook, please let me know. But otherwise, expect to see a draft in April.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? So interactive overview, Rich?
Yes. And so just a quick update, we've mentioned a couple of times that we've been switching the entirety of the TIP and the LOTIP financial management over into the Eco Interactive platform. We are, we'll talk about this in a moment. I apologize, these bullet points ended up a little out of order, but as we get underway on the 2025 to 2028 TIP, We will hopefully not be creating that in Access and doing the archaic method we used to use for tip management, but it will all be in Eco Interactive. And so again, I encourage everybody to take a look, review, take a look at the projects associated with your towns, with the way that the platform displays that information. We're excited that now we actually have it live for public comment. We haven't had any comments, but it's there as an option, so we're excited to be advancing our utilization of the software and of the platform, and we'll hopefully have a lot of success with it in the next tip.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Just moving on, active transportation plan update.
Yeah, and I believe Elliot is not here this morning, and so I can take care of this for him. We've been saying for quite a while now that we've been working on an active transportation plan, and we are making some real progress on it. Elliot intends to have, by the end of February, an existing conditions analysis complete. That will include everything except for the full sidewalk network, which we're going to wait now because the department will be doing that as part of their ADA transition work. We will be hosting our first public meeting associated with the active transportation plan on February 20th here in Waterbury at City Hall. This will be the first of hopefully many, at least several. We'll be moving around the region to ensure we have an opportunity for people in all 19 communities to comment. This one's really going to be more of a design charrette than it will be an information session. So we'll have boards with elements and pictures and opportunities for people to provide comments on various active transportation infrastructure items. We'll have a big map of the region. People can put up suggestions for places they would like to see something else go in. We're gonna have food. So hopefully that entices people to come out.
What's the date?
February 20th. At 6 o'clock at
Veterans Memorial Hall in City Hall, 235 Grand Street, Waterbury.
but somebody knows all the action details. Like I said, right, we're hoping this is the first of at least several around the region so that everybody has a chance to see the same content closer to home. But we're excited. We hope we get a strong turnout. We get a lot of feedback on it. And again, that we can, as a result, have a strong plan that we know people support.
Any questions, comments? Thanks for the information. Sign in 2025-28 tip.
Yes, and so this is the last item for transportation. Thank you all for bearing with us here. The 2021 to 2024 transportation improvement program will be ending in October or September, technically. The new 2025 to 2028 tip will start on October 1st. And so we're in the process right now of drafting the actual document that goes along with it, which includes the performance measures, the target setting, as well as the project listing. In the meeting packet that went out was a spreadsheet with all of the items that will be included as of right now in the 2025 to 2028 tip. And so if you haven't had a chance to look, we encourage you to do so. Please let us know if there's anything that you either didn't expect or expected to be on there that's not. We've been working with CONDOT and putting this list together for just about a year now. And so we think it's pretty comprehensive, but if there's, again, please provide any comments on it. In advance of adopting the new tip, the NVCOG board, or excuse me, the CNVMPO and GBVMPO boards adopting the new tip, we will be bringing it before all of you in April. And so hopefully we'll, it'll be a relatively easy process. In that aspect, we will be holding public engagement around the tip, likely in late spring and early summer. And so we'll have a public comment period before the board endorses. We also hope to have at least one information session as well as some information on the NVCOG website. And so if any or all of you would like to share any information about it on your city websites, we would appreciate that as well.
Now, is this a good opportunity to improve chances of getting our projects funded?
Not necessarily. Because the tip is really built off of the capital plan, which is already programmed for 5 years out. This tip is unlikely to see significant new projects funded. It is a chance for us to talk about getting items into the amendment process onto the next one. But the items that will be in the 25 to 28 tip to start with are likely pretty well set.
But this is an opportunity to start the dialogue about long-term big projects.
Absolutely. Mhm. Yeah, and just, as a reminder for everybody, I know we talk about it regularly, but we don't often go back to just the basic on it. As a reminder, the MPOs are the ones technically responsible for programming all federal dollars. CONDOT cannot do a project without the MPO's endorsement of that, the spending of that federal money. And so even though the TIP process for us is pretty, I don't want to say automated, but it's, fairly whatever, right? It's self-directed or autopilot, thank you, yeah. The contents of this document is what is allowed to be spent over the next 5 or 4-year period at any level with federal dollars. And so, we almost always endorse amendments, we almost always just endorse the TIP as it is presented. But your chief elected officials do have a lot of say over whether or not these projects can move forward or not with CONDOT. And so, we certainly hope to, as appropriate, exercise that authority. Ensure that our towns do support the projects that are being presented as they're being presented, and if necessary, request additional information or modifications.
Any questions, comments? Just moving on, legislative update.
Morning. Today the session actually started about 16 minutes ago. So we have our eye on a few things relevant to this group. Mostly is going to be matching of federal dollars for whatever program that may be. And we're hearing that there's going to be a part of the governor's budget that's going to include something like that, and some funds specific for that. So I'll keep you updated on that as it goes, as that goes live, and I will get it to Rich and make sure he gets it to you, gentlemen and ladies. Short of that, I wanted to know if you had anything you wanted me to kind of keep an eye on or report back on through the session. That's pretty much where we're at in terms of transportation related items.
So I don't even know if this, I don't think it's a legislative, matter, but I don't know how the other municipalities feel, or even, NVCOG, but it's always felt strange to me that as part of the bridge program, federal, local, we get 80%. Now, it's a good thing, they even give us 100% of construction. But state, local, we get 50%. And it seems like state, local bridges qualify on like the busier roads. So on the less traveled roads, I'm getting 100% funded, but on the on the roads that have higher volumes, they don't qualify for federal. They qualify for local, and I get less funding. So to me, it would always be good if they can increase funding of the state local bridge program. To a certain extent, it seems like that window of opportunity with ARPA funding and influx of funding has passed. So I think it's a moot issue. But in hindsight, too bad that it was an existing program. Like right in the middle of ARPA, we submitted projects and literally for the first time having not approved. Really because of lack of money. It seemed like that was a missed opportunity to get money into the system and fix infrastructure in the state.
So that was discussed last session quite extensively on various forms. Rich, I don't know if you have any more info on that as to where it landed, because I believe it was literally just kind of patted around. And they did talk about upping the ability to utilize some of those funds on more of the local roads, but I don't know where that landed. Do you know, Rich, by any chance?
We actually intend to have someone from the department come in to speak about local bridge, state local bridge program at the next TTAC meeting. They have made some changes to the program, and I apologize, I don't remember offhand what those changes were, but
we'll get that to you.
Yeah, we'll have a presentation on that.
There was something discussed about going after bonding, so we could get additional federal dollars in to help with the town matches from state bonding coming in. It was either 25 million or 100 million a year for that. And of course, that will be all to be competitive too, to rack and stack the priorities. So.
Keep you updated on that for sure. And that's, like I said, the biggest thing is kind of these matching. That's the biggest problem. Why a lot of these dollars aren't being spent at state and federal level is that the towns, to your point earlier, you're not even gonna apply because you know you need to come up with a 10 or 20% match. That's not feasible for you from a budgetary perspective, particularly when it's something that's available within a 6-month window that you didn't know was coming. You didn't budget for it in the previous year's budget. So I'll definitely keep you apprised of all that stuff. But as I said, I think that's the most relevant to this group. And if the further ahead that we see it, the better you can plan projects and things like that. So we'll let you know for sure. But that's good to know, Rich, that they're coming next month to talk treasures.
The discussion I heard is, the smaller towns in particular have a problem coming up with match. And they're talking about helping the smaller towns specifically, for their very reasons.
Yeah, I think smaller towns are definitely having a problem, but to your point, the larger towns, some of them are eligible for more funds and have the same problem. Having worked in a smaller town, I've shared this with some of the CEOs previously. I think sometimes from a practice perspective, if you have the ability to and you're budgetary, you don't have too many budgetary constraints, it's probably a good practice, even under your respective departments, to request matching grant funds on a year-to-year basis that either don't lapse or whatever, to have that maybe built out through your municipal finance department. That's proved to be very, very useful. Having, again, come from a small community where you're not thinking of these things necessarily ahead of time, and then all of a sudden this funding pot becomes available, so.
So you're recommending setting up like a capital sinking fund?
Sinking or,
Sinking, yeah, capital.
yes, I just wasn't sure if that was a joke that was gonna sink back into the into the general fund, but yeah, yes, absolutely. I think just something that.
My wife's a CPA, she talks about that.
Yeah.
Financial terms.
I'm more of a word guy than a numbers guy, but yes, it's exactly. I think that's exactly the concept, to just have, to have access to it locally and understand that you may need it, you may not, but to be able to articulate that to your board of finance, your finance director, your CEO, that in order for us to be able to be at the table for some of these opportunities that may pop up mid-year, let's squirrel away some money for match.
Gotta get ahead of it.
Yeah, you gotta be ahead of it. Your budget season is now for most of you guys. I mean,
And they mentioned too that there's a few states that do this. I think Rhode Island might have been one of
Rhode Island
them,
has a really good program.
where the state backs up the towns and they're grabbing a bunch of federal dollars to make infrastructure repairs across the state of Rhode Island. And they mentioned a few other states too that do this.
We're kind of surrounded by some really strong
Mass
programs.
does.
Mass and New York both have them as well. And then we're here.
And then, honestly, it's off transportation, but not necessarily a legislative, act, but, Bristol, we were looking for funding, supplemental funding for our firehouse and actually, made it out. Like it was going to, the bond agenda, but then it didn't make it through the governor's, office. And it was my understanding, the way it was explained even at a public meeting through state reps, is that the governor, doesn't necessarily support, bonding, emergency management projects. He thinks municipalities should take care of that on their own. It's such a big obligation, but honestly, even the supplemental funding was a couple $1 million, and now we're looking at a police complex that's gonna be like $60 million, it wouldn't if we had, state, assistance.
there are some opportunities for that, through probably the RPIP program, the Regional Performance Incentive Program. That would have to include some element of combination with the surrounding municipality. And we can talk offline, because I think there is some interest in your general area of potentially doing that and doing something more regional. And then you can kind of leverage some dollars through that. So we can certainly talk about that, and an application for that.
Now, have you talked to our mayor, Bristol's mayor on that? Yeah. Any other information or any other questions or
Thank you.
environmental planning?
Hello, good
Deep
morning.
Recreation trails, yeah.
Yeah, so my name is Christine. I'm filling in for Aaron today. And let's kick it off with rec trails. So hopefully most of you are familiar with this really wonderful program. The CT Deep Recreational Trails Grant Program is receiving an unprecedented $10 million in funding. We've never had that much available before, so we are really, really encouraging every town to apply. Keep in mind, it's a very broad open program. You can apply for just at the beginning stages of planning and routing onto construction, maintenance, or even an education program to help get people out on the trails. It is due March 1st, so you've got a little over a month to get your application together. And a quick reminder that as with all grants, NVCOG is available to provide some support. We could write a support letter. We have potential to do some mapping for you, but please let us know as soon as possible so we can fit it into our schedules. Any questions about the Rec Trail grant? I think most people are pretty familiar with it. It's sort of a staple for CTD. Great, and on the next slide, I know I give these updates, and usually you see a blue and white chart here with the numbers, but we have a really exciting update about the Sustainable Materials Management Grant Program for solid waste. So Woodbury actually approved a full permanent program at the end of their pilot. So next to the agendas on the table, I have a full press release if you're interested, and I'm going to put it in the chat right now. A link to it for anyone who's online, but here are the highlights. Woodbury appointed several months ago a citizen advisory committee to sort of design what the permanent program would look like. They met 8 times over 2 months, and these were citizens from kind of all different walks of life. Many of them served on other commissions. So we had someone from the Finance Commission, we had someone from Conservation. I believe there was someone from the Planning Commission. So a lot of different expertise. They had these like every other week intensive meetings where they learned about all the strategies. They visited transfer stations. They went through financial modeling, and they ultimately recommended a full unit-based pricing or pay-as-you-throw program. And by full, we mean that the entire cost of disposal is built into the cost of each bag, and then a mandatory food scrap diversion program. That recommendation was then brought to the Board of Selectmen, and over the course of 2 meetings, they had a public hearing about it and ultimately voted to approve it with a couple of little modifications. And DEEP has provided them with a bridge grant to, so they want to start at the beginning of their fiscal year, which is July 1. So the pilot ends, actually today is the last day of their pilot, February 7th. So between February and July, DEEP is giving them a little bit of extra financial support to educate, to get some signage up, to have an education officer standing there at the transfer station. So we're really excited about this. We think Woodbury is a great model for other communities. Of course, Woodbury is often, it's very different in shape and size from some of our other communities in the NVCOG region. We know it's a very diverse region, but it's exciting. We hope you'll take a look at the press release, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
And their pilot program was townwide?
It was transfer station based, which we think is a bit less than half of the town uses the transfer station.
And their permanent program is gonna be transfer station based?
Correct.
Any questions or comments?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, I did ask Rich, Bristol received an emergency management grant. Is there, can NVCOG speak on that, or?
Yeah, Joanna, you're still online, yes?
Let me pull it up, so.
And Drew, I know you were seeing this as well, the FEMA technical assistance offering that's out there.
Of the natural hazard mitigation, for.
I believe so.
I apologize. So I received something through our emergency management provider saying that there was a FEMA grant. The deadline, was this, Friday, but it really seemed like a simple form, and it was really for, engineering and planning.
Yeah. Yes, so it is that, the technical assistance for the hazard mitigation.
Once you can talk offline, or if you do have any information, you can send it, to me and the other, members, but, does NVCOG have any additional information on this?
I don't know that we do, really beyond what's in that email. I apologize, I know it's,
No, that's fine. I apologize, I didn't mention it earlier.
I believe, I was looking at it, but I think it's the same email, and it looks like it's actually February 29th as the deadline.
No, that makes it easier.
That's the one that I'm thinking of too.
Yeah.
Yes, it is 29.
Okay. Yeah, so you have a couple more days, we can, try and get a little bit more information, get it out to everyone. From what we know about it, it is technical assistance, And so I don't know quite how much they'll be able to offer, but it's not funding, it is just technical assistance. There is a priority given to communities that have a Justice 40 census tract. So we have 5 here in our region that have a Justice 40 tract, but it is not specific to anybody is eligible. You know, beyond that, I can see if I can find out a little bit more, send it out to the TTAC group before that application deadline.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Through the chair. Can we get someone an update about the climate resiliency program and grants and projects in the area?
We can certainly try. I don't know if any of the towns would like to offer status on where they are.
So Bristol received a award, 250,000. And as recently as last week, I emailed, the state, that the last word we received is that they're still working through like a contract. And, literally my email said, can you provide an update? Is there any action required, or can we, Bristol move forward? And they're like, we're still working through the internal contract, process from the state, you can't expend funds until you have, official reward. So it's really, at this point, I don't know if Waterbury received anything, but from Bristol's perspective, we've been notified that we have a grant. We just can't, access it yet until there's an official contract. And I don't say this negatively because, certainly I work with government, and obviously, we have our own issues in Bristol, but that's been 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, Christina, I don't know if you know anything about the one that we won, if the contract has been prepared or not.
Which one?
Climate resilience.
Oh, sure, yeah. So Deep takes an awfully long time with their contracts. We have been going back and forth with them. It's definitely awarded. We're definitely getting it. It's just a matter of that to be signed by the Attorney General's office, and we have to straighten it out. But the $680,000 for the project is definitely ours.
So it seems like contracting is the whole up for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious, because, similar like everybody else, we're getting hammered by the rains this year, and we're seeing water that we never saw before, and our drainage project list is getting out of control. It's simply overwhelming the system we already have in place, which is based on the old standards.
Yeah, if I could make a quick comment on that, I know this might be, maybe not a best practice, but keep in mind that this grant, it's an 18-month period, and it's only to design create designs for a new project. So if you miraculously come across another funding source that is like, we can get you a new culvert, we can, I would encourage you to take, especially if you're talking about, there's pressing like public safety issues. I think this grant is a great opportunity, but I would never want you to turn down if you had other construction funds. This is still a long way out. It's 18 months to just get a design done with no promise of construction funding. So I just wanted to, I know it's kind of a grim reminder, but make sure people are aware.
Okay, I just want to mention the community connectivity grant. I had a conversation with the program administrator here, and they tell me there's another round coming out.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing.
They said they're not gonna accept any more applications. They're gonna use the current applications that they have on file.
Oh, okay, no, they didn't tell me that part.
Yeah, that's what we got from I called the DOT and asked about it.
So basically, they draw down the backlog.
Correct.
Yeah, and even mentioned that with last year's solicitation, that was their plan for the next round.
And just a reminder, if you have current funds awarded, they will not award you any other funds to expend the funds in your currently awarded.
I thought it was, they didn't want 3 active projects, because I closed one out, and honestly, I have 2.
You have 2 now. That's pretty much what I told them in terms of priority, is like if you have funds out there that you have not spent, you're gonna probably be bumped down versus people who have one potential application out there and have either previously not gotten funding or expended their funding.
It does seem like there is increasing concern about funds that have been awarded through this program but not spent yet.
Right.
So the department is really trying to get these projects constructed.
to your point, I think if you've been a good actor in using the program, they're probably more likely to award you a second, but I think I have a couple of examples of smaller towns who got funds 4 or 5 years ago and have done nothing with those funds. They're probably not likely to get another project.
Any other matters become before the committee? If not, a motion to adjourn will be in order.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for everyone's time.
Yeah, thank you all.